Hello, hello, and welcome to Baki Taki, Season 3, Episode 11. This week we're talking about an episode called The Prison Guard Talks About It. Sounds like a top seller, member of the Oprah Book Club, but it's an exciting one. And to continue Tri-Month, we've got two guests once again. We've got a friend of the show coming back for his third episode, Scott. Say hello.
Hey.
Yep.
Are you sure this is my third episode?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, I only remember doing one.
Yeah, no. I'll put some clips from both. To help me out, I have my co-host, Scott.
Hi there.
Because we've got Scott back on the pod. Say hi, Scott.
Glad to be back.
Because you were the fifth ever episode, and then you did one where guy threw sand at a guy. That was a different episode.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember the Sandman. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sandman.
It's all coming back. Okay.
Yeah, but we've also got a big celebrity guest this episode. We've got Michael Barbaro.
Hey, it's Michael. If you listen to podcasts, which we know you do because you're here, you know that the biggest challenge is finding great stuff to listen to.
Yeah, but that's why we're here, because we've got the incredible podcast, Baki Taki. Michael Barbaro, of course, is the host of The Daily, who puts out podcasts every day. We only put it out once a week. Did you want to say anything to your fans?
It's Monday, May 22nd.
It's actually not, but that's fine.
It's good to see you again, Michael.
Oh, do you guys know each other? Have you guys met before?
Yeah, a couple times.
Oh, wow. So explain that.
I don't think this is the time or place, Michael.
No.
Yes, that's right, Michael. So, as you can see, we're pulling out all the stops for this episode. So, Scott, I've got a question that I've been asking all of my returning guests in the duo episodes. It's gonna be how should I do this? You know what? We'll double cast it. Baki is dying to be turned into a Hollywood mega franchise. Put out one of these movies every year. If that were the case, who would you cast to play Baki?
That's a very good question. I mean, maybe he could start as Timothy Chalamet and then just get larger. They find larger actors as time goes on, because he's not like jacked to begin with. But the thing is, the bodies are so messed up in Baki. Like this episode especially, I was just like, there aren't people who look at all like this. So it's a tough question, because realistically it's like, who does Baki look like? He looks like The Rock. But then how do you find someone who's bigger than The Rock for Baki to, face off against and be the underdog against? Like that's a big ask as well.
It's true. Like they use CGI to make Thanos, but like if you put Biscuit Oliva beside Thanos, like he would look more ridiculous than the giant purple spaceman. If you wanted to make it accurate, but that's
all have like their waists are so small, and then their shoulders are like 3 or 4 times the width.
Well, he's built like a predator. I was reading a recent issue where Mr. Oliver shows up. This is like 20 years in the story ahead of what's happening now, and I was reading it before the translations came out, so it was just a bunch of images, and it was Biscuit Oliver compared to a sumo, and they were talking about how his body is built like a triangle, but a sumo is built like an upside or a regular triangle. Which was
built like a pear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's jump into the episode. So the episode begins. Biscuit Oliver is talking to the warden at the Black Pentagon, Arizona State Prison. Scott, what did you think of this scene? I know you've watched Oz. You love the prison dynamics. So
I was thinking a lot about Oz during this show, which is not Oz, to be clear. Not at all like Oz. I had no idea this was a prison warden, or that it was set in a prison from the opening. They're like, if eventually it comes out, you're like, oh, okay, Arizona State Penitentiary, cool.
Got it.
This guy doesn't look like the warden of Arizona State Penitentiary at all.
Does he look too wimpy, too much of a just a loser, I guess.
No, he kind of looks like he's like half Nazi, half gangster. You know, the slicked back, like blonde hair. He's super buff. He's not enough of a loser, which is what Oz gets right. Is that the prison warden? Well, the warden himself is just like a politician, and then the mid-level managers at the prison are just losers, right? So that's an accurate thing. But this guy,
Got it.
I don't know. He looks like Otto Skorzeny or something like that. Not a prison warden.
Yeah. No, I agree. Do you think the glasses work though? Like the aviators that he wears at all times?
Yeah, for him, they're a sick style, like no question.
It's one of the few jobs where your boss can just wear an aviator all day. So Oliver comes up with a great scheme, which, okay, first off, let me just set it that Oliver wants to fight Baki. They're going to sell it to cable networks, and it's going to be the strongest man in America versus the strongest high schooler in history.
It's gonna be a spectacular sporting event put on by our own Arizona State Prison and broadcast to the entire world. Oh, I see. Just imagine the billing. The legend Biscuit Oliver, the strongest man in America, will be taking on Baki Hanma, the strongest high schooler in all of history.
First of all, would you watch that? And secondly, do you think every household in America would watch that?
We can sell the rights to cable television and have it broadcast into every home all across America.
This, like, have you heard about that power slap sport that came out now?
Yep.
Like, this would sell. This would sell. The people would love it. I don't know that I would watch it, because I feel like I would only hear about it, like,
the next day.
I don't know, 3 weeks after it happened. Then I'd be like, oh, that's fucking insane. I need to watch this.
Yo, did you hear about the strongest high schooler in history?
Yeah. It's like the better version of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader on CBC.
The thing to me though is like this feels like one step up from bum fighting. Like you can't have two prisoners fighting each other, especially when one is like an 18-year-old who, like, I don't know. If Oliver wins, this is not something I want to watch because it would just be brutal. And if Oliver loses, then America has lost. So it just doesn't feel marketable to me.
Yeah, if it was just high school kids getting beat up, then it would be bad. But I mean, how much, like, if it was actually like wrestling, they don't, this is all very controlled and scripted and orchestrated, and they're like, there's too much money, too much, on the line, too many people watching for us to leave this up to chance. We've got to, make sure that we make a good story. So I assume they would take that approach too with this one.
I see. Yeah, that'd be fun.
This is the part that reminded me most of Oz, though, because there is like a boxing ring that they run in the prison.
Seriously?
It doesn't get televised, but it's like entertainment for the prisoners. And the warden, they think it's going to be like a constructive direction for a while. But then this Irish guy called Ryan O'Reilly.
Editor Steve here. Scott messaged me afterwards to say that he meant to say Cyril O'Reilly, as he doesn't want to come off as a fake Oz fan. So keep that in mind.
Who's played by the actor who's like the annoying grad student from Good Will Hunting. He just like one hit KOs another guy. The other guy dies in the boxing ring, and it's not good. Yeah.
No, I'll never forget in my high school self-defense class with or whatever. There was a guy in my class who kept asking why try and knock me out or put me in a hold and see if I'll black out or something. And the guy was like, I could do that easy, but there's a 1 in 100 chance you just die. Like if you get knocked out, you know.
He's like, try to give me permanent brain damage on the low end.
That was, I'm glad that didn't happen. Anyway, so that sets up the scene. Oliver is going to organize a fight with Baki.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
And that takes us to our next scene. well, I'm just going to let you describe this, because this is probably your introduction to Maria.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
I mean, he walks into, so Biscuit Oliva walks into this place that looks like a wedding venue.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this enormously fat woman lying in state there.
Yep.
Who is not dead, but she's like morbidly obese. She cannot move.
Yes.
They tell her backstory, and she's, I don't know, taken all of these drugs and somehow become incredibly fat from it, from being the most beautiful woman that Biscuit Oliva could imagine.
Yeah, I think the drugs. I think she just had peanut butter like injected directly into her veins. Like, I don't know how that worked.
Peanut butter is a drug created by the U.S. military to feed GIs, and I mean, when I was overseas, they didn't have peanut butter, and I was like, "Where the hell's the peanut butter?" But us, like North Americans, we're just like I couldn't live without that. So I think there is a case to be made there.
Yeah.
She
was the test subject.
She's like full of shame and self-hatred, and she's like isolated from the world, like she's like fat Norma Desmond or something.
Mm-hmm.
So there was not a lot of context here. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, to be honest, we don't have much more. Like, we know that that's Oliver's girlfriend. That's his house in the prison. It's sort of a thing where like Oliver is so free that he is in prison, but it's really nice.
So he's got the Al Capone thing going on.
Yeah, he's the world's freest man. Is his title, Mr. Unchained, as he likes to go by.
That makes sense.
We've met Maria a few times. My pet theory is that Oliver is so strong because he has to lift his girlfriend around, and she is so big. We didn't know what made her so big, so that was cool to learn.
The beauty that you possessed was so stunning that it turned every head in town wherever you went. But then you fell sick, and after taking countless medications, you came to look the way that you do today.
And I thought it was pretty emotional, seeing Oliver start crying onto her chest. It's that type of hard-hitting emotions is why I watched the show, not the hard-hitting fists.
Personally, my predominant emotion was confusion, but maybe if you follow it more closely, it would help.
That'd be like the world's kindest review. It's like, it was a very emotional film, specifically the emotion of confusion. So I did not know what was going on. Yeah, I did rewatch it a few times to try and like get what the themes are going on here. And it's there's a vagueness of like self-confidence, I guess, because Oliver has sort of lived this life of he gets the utmost respect, and Baki is the first person to come and not do that. But that leads into where the fun begins. Oliver, in his tuxedo that he wears around prison, which has got to be so hot, he walks into Baki's steaming cell, where Baki is, of course, shirtless with his finger cuffs on, where he's been for, honestly, a good half of this season. And he tells him, "We're going to fight on TV."
Oh, wow.
Baki responds. Baki is such a dick this entire scene. I love it. First off, he calls him Mr. Chained a bunch when his nickname is Mr. Unchained.
You really don't get it, do you, Mr. Chained? Are you going senile, Mr. Chained?
So you think that I'm chained up? Is that what you're saying?
That's a savage roast. Savage, absolutely.
It's so good. And then he has my favorite line where Mr. Oliver says, "What do you mean by that?" And he says,
I mean this, you big bitch.
"I mean this, you big bitch." puts his foot up against his chest. What were your thoughts during this initial confrontation between Baki and Oliver?
Well, I liked that. So I don't know that I had the "you big bitch" line from the version I was watching. It was in Japanese. I don't think that made it to the subtitles. The one that I liked was Baki being like, "I'm not as shackled as you," which is like, okay, terrific.
I was
just
thinking the whole time, there's a bit of like a racial connotation when Baki just keeps talking about him, calling him Mr. Chained, calling him shackled. Yeah.
What is he supposed to be a black guy or what is Is he Hispanic or?
I believe he's Cuban. He's based off of.
Okay.
I get confused sometimes, but I believe he's based off of the Cuban bodybuilder Sergio Oliva, who was Mr. Universe before Schwarzenegger.
Sergio just becomes Biscuit, of course, when you translate it to Japanese and then back again.
It's better to do it that way. Like, at least this way we know it's not the character. Like, we just finished with Jay Guevara, and that was way too confusing. Like, if it was Biscuit Guevara, I think it would...
Yeah. Jay Guevara that's, like, hilarious. That's impressive. Anyways. Yeah, I did like how this just follows the Bucky pattern where it's, like, 5 minutes of exposition, and then the rest of the episode is just fist fighting.
It's fist fighting broken up structure. By 5 minutes of exposition. Like, this is one of the slowest paced fights, I think. Because the whole rest of the episode is probably 30 seconds of a fight.
There's a book that was written by Tor Noratranders. Its title is The User Illusion, Cutting Consciousness Down to Size.
All right. Let's go through the highlights of this fight. First off, what did you think of Oliver jumping out of his tuxedo and wearing only his leopard thong?
Yeah, the Hulk move was impressive. Yeah, because he just flexes and then it just breaks off. Like, that's not everyone can do that.
Not everyone, no.
And it's like he should consider getting the rest of his outfits made out of the same material as his Speedo if he doesn't want that to happen. But until then, like, the way that he just launches that tuxedo at the wall is very impressive. And it just reveals his, like, fucked up, super over-muscled body as well, which is always a treat to see.
Yeah, yes. Nobody's built like Oliver. But you also raise a good point. It's almost more impressive, not just that he was able to make the tuxedo fly off, but that he prevented his Speedo from flying off as well. Because that would have been a bit embarrassing.
Essentially. Well, I guess Baki follows it with his own version of this too, right? Because we have Biscuit Oliva, who's just expanding his body and throwing his clothes off, and then Baki does the opposite, and he's like, "I'm gonna shrink my body," and there's a whole anatomy lesson in there too. The first of 2 physiology lessons in this episode.
Oh yeah,
which is it? I haven't seen that in the earlier episodes that I've watched, and the one that I obviously completely forgot about.
The great thing about this show
it's insane.
Every fight is teaching you something, and it's nice when it's a fight like this where it's like, it's teaching you facts about the human body that relate to fighting, and not like we had a thing about a fictional Italian hotel owner and how he died in the middle of one of our last fights. We've learned about how to make good soup in the middle of a fight. So it's nice to learn about, once again, probably fictional things about the body. Although this one is this is the type of thing where, you can explain it and you're like, well, I guess it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's plausible. I don't know how many prisons make use of these thumb holds, so it may not be the most useful information out there. But I was like, plausible. You just cut off your circulation. Maybe it's a useful trick if you get, like, your ring stuck on your finger or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's like the way that they just have Biscuit Oliva narrating the whole sequence too. It's like, oh, thank you, Dr. Professor.
You really know what you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing about Biscuit Oliva that they never do anything with. Like, when he was first introduced, he has his own library in the prison that's just for him, and he's read every book in it. Like,
I didn't realize that.
That's the thing. It's show not tell. Like, he is a Renaissance man. He's a genius, but the way he fights is like a big caveman who just.
So he can go toe to toe with Che Guevara then on Marxist and colonial theory. That's impressive.
Exactly. I'm sure that's what he was reading up on. He was probably reading. He was like, "Hey, wait, this Che Guevara guy looks a lot like the prisoner Che Guevara."
Hey, didn't he die in Bolivia in 1968 or so?
Is this his son? Yeah, so what Baki ends up doing is he first dislocates both of his shoulders at the same time, using just his muscles, brings it back, pretty standard. And then he squeezes his arms together with his own muscles to prevent blood from flowing through, so his fingertips get smaller, he can wiggle out.
Yeah.
I don't know if
his lats are so developed. His lats are just so overdeveloped he can do this, is what Biscuit Oliver says.
Yes.
It's like, wow, man.
It was good to use the technical term there, a technical term for a muscle.
It's like gym bro science. I was kind of like, this has to be made by some gym bros, like the writing and the animation. Like, there's no one with the homoerotic aesthetic of all of this like musculature drawing, plus the knowledge of how to cut off circulation to your thumb using just your muscles. It's only the gym bros who have this.
It's a big topic at the gym. Hey, I learned a new trick in case you ever get put in those thumb cuffs from Baki.
Well, I remember always talking about.
Also, this isn't going to translate well because it's an audio podcast, but like, if you watched the way Baki's muscles were flexing when he was squeezing his arms, they look like they were made of jello, and like that his muscle was going to pop out of his arm. It was terrifying.
Yeah. There's always that like terror in this show. Like, there's always like, are their muscles going to be too big for their body? Are they going to just explode their body?
That would be a fun little twist if that just happened. You know, it's funny. That actually does happen this season. Did you see... I'm assuming you watched the opening theme song.
Yeah.
Did you see when Biscuit Oliver turned into a giant mountain of muscle?
Oh, yeah. I'm just like mousing over that now. That's... Yeah, okay, wow. There you go.
So there's a scene where
it didn't register that was what was happening, but
it's
odd, I guess.
It's like a cosmic horror. Like, your brain, you watch it and your brain will not
Yeah.
That was a great scene this season where Biscuit told Baki, the reason I'm so strong is because my muscles are so big that I have to hold them in at all times. And if I were to ever untense, I would get that big. And then they showed that, and then he went, I'm just kidding. I'm not as big as a building. So it was just a dream sequence. But anyway. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where Biscuit Oliver has jumped out of his tuxedo. Baki has both of his hands. The fight is ready to actually begin. We didn't mention it, but Baki got thrown through a concrete wall and is in another cell hanging out with Rich Cox.
Rich Cox, 33 years old, American, sentenced to 18 years.
And I guess Baki was just like, no, we're gonna fight now. He's like, we're not gonna fight on TV. We're gonna do it now.
Yeah. Well, fighters fight, you know.
Yeah, he's opposed to the spectacle of having children fight the heavyweight champion of the world or whatever. Understandably so.
Yeah, no, he just wants to do it for the love of the game.
He would not be a Springer fan.
Rest in peace. So, Baki tries to punch Oliver. Oliver, being the world's most muscular man, laughs it off, pulls Baki literally through the wall, which, if you count the number of things that should just kill Baki, it's a fun drinking game for this episode. But then we get to my favorite part of the whole episode, which is what's described as Biscuit Oliver picks up Baki and then moves him around like a towel.
And what came after that was just incredible. He was holding Baki's arm and leg like this. But did he throw him to the ground? No, that isn't what he did at all. He swung him around like this. You know what I mean? Just flinging him around like a towel.
And I had a real tough time trying to visualize what he was doing, or if I've ever done that with a towel in any way. But do you want to, like, what do you think he was, like, how would you describe this motion, Scott?
He kept on, like, I mean, I don't know. It's like if you had maybe like a sling or something like that. He's holding his foot and then whipping him around like a sling. And I kept on expecting him to slam him into something.
No.
But he just keeps whipping him around for like minutes on end. And then he just lets him go. And it's like, is this a threat? Is it a psychological move or something?
I thought he was
I'm
gonna
not
start
sure.
doing. I thought he was gonna start doing jump ropes with him at one point. Like,
Yeah, yeah, he's just whipping him like a towel. Maybe it's a Japanese culture thing. Maybe just, these honkies, we don't know how to whip a towel. But
in the Japanese showers, you need a lot more space because everybody's
yeah,
just whipping the towels around.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, so Biscuit Oliver gets a very dominating start to the episode, whips Baki around like a towel, throws him through 4 more walls.
Yeah.
Because he went into the next cell, and the next cell, and the next cell.
That was a really good shot. They just show the outside of the cells, and Biscuit Oliver, is he throwing him through, or is he just like running through with Baki?
Oh, I think he
I'm
like
not,
spear
I'm not
tackled
sure.
him or something. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just show, camera pan on the outside of the cells, and he's just bash through all the walls.
And the prisoners are all just terrified. Also narrating the fight. It's great. It's one of those scenes where we switch narrators every 10 seconds. We go from Rich Cox to a guy that didn't have as funny of a name, so I didn't write it down. Eventually we get prison guard Bob McCarthy. Who also, they said, this is once again not going to translate, but they said he was 27. Bob McCarthy did not look 27. He looked like 40. But maybe that's just me. Just an old man.
Bob McCarthy, 27 years old, American, prison guard.
All right, so he was standing there waiting for Baki to get up.
What else? There's just so much to talk about. I'm just trying to figure out what makes sense.
I mean, he goes through all the cells, and then he just runs through the steel door after that, right?
Yeah. Because no room can hold him. Because that's the true meaning of Unchained.
Because he's unchained. He's so unchained. Yeah. Just running through the prison walls is hilarious. But and then there's a shot after he breaks the door just of his ass in the leopard print thong and his insane body as he's standing outside the cells. It's wild.
It's one of those things though that you can't. It's not. I feel like a lot of these shots could be seen as objectifying if these bodies weren't so gruesome. Like if they weren't so unappealing. Like
they're completely inhuman bodies. They're not even conceivably realistic.
Yeah.
They're really doing harm to my self-image.
I wish I had a face in my back.
Yeah.
So Baki gets thrown through a bunch of walls. Oliver gets him on the ground, and then he picks up Baki for real this time and doesn't throw him around like a towel. Instead, he throws him like an American football, spikes him into the ground.
This is in the open area in the prison.
Yeah.
Outside of the cells. Just being spectated by the prison guards.
Oh yeah. Great day to be a prison guard. Well, not.
Yeah.
Great day to be a prisoner. I would enjoy watching this. I would not enjoy being a guard.
If I was a prison guard in Arizona State Penitentiary and they have dudes who can just run through a steel wall, I don't know. I'd be maybe considering polishing up my CV. Sending out some applications. Yeah.
Oh man. Michael Barbaro was such a horrible idea. Oh boy. All right. This is where it gets fun. I want to get your thoughts on. So Baki's laying on the ground. It's he's feeling like this is a real fight. He hasn't had a real fight in ages. His fight against Muhammad Ali Jr. just kicked him in the balls and it was over. But this one's real. What happens to Baki? Because it's quite interesting, and honestly, I don't really know why it happens.
It didn't make a huge amount of sense. He just gets slammed into the ground, leaves the subtitles say a 30-centimeter imprint in the ground, 1 imperial foot.
Yes, Michael. We got 1 foot in the dub.
And then he's just lying there on the ground, and eventually he just turns into liquid in his mind as he's lying on the ground. And it was very unclear what I was meant to take from this. Like his vision starts getting fucked up. He sees Biscuit Oliva, and he's like veiny and muscly, and it's like obscene. And then he dissolves into liquid.
Yeah, I don't.
And just runs all over the prison floor.
Ah, there it goes. At last, it's starting. What? Am I melting? Yeah, I'm liquefying. I'm becoming coarse and then smooth, just like water.
I don't get it, because like it's like I thought where they were going with it is like, you know, maybe he's like his brain functions are like going out, like he's about to be knocked unconscious, like he's liquidizing. But it seems like he gets powered up after this. Like it seems like the turning into liquid was like a super like power up that he had.
Yeah, it's very graphic too. His his
are,
eyeballs
like,
are dripping everywhere, and you know there's like hair sticking there, and it's he kind of makes like he basically makes like Biscuit Oliva's tuxedo, right? Just like disintegrating and then running all over the ground. Only somehow it re-energizes him, and then he comes back like a spring.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of times in this show where like my pet theory is that the author sometimes gets bored of drawing fights, and so like that's why there's so many interludes. And this was just like, what if Baki melted, and you spend some time drawing that, and then you're like, well, I can use this. Put it in the page.
It was very surreal, and he leaves a mark on the floor after he springs back up. Like his liquefied body fixes the big 30 centimeter imprint in the floor and leaves a mark looking like a face on the concrete ground, as if he's like the Shroud of Turin or something. Like it was very, very Jesus-y. Baki's back from the dead and ready to kick ass.
Baki's back. He's back. Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And this is, of course, his demon back, his special Hanma back that makes him very strong. I have to do some research on that, but we'll get back.
Yeah, they're kind of all like, I don't know. They're all like magic cards or Yu-Gi-Oh or something. They all have their special attacks and strengths and.
Oh, this fight is full of that. I so wish you could see the next episode, because it starts with we'll get there. We'll get there. Before that, there's one special attack that Baki has. Biscuit Oliver's like sees that Baki has jumped off the ground, probably thinks, oh, he probably turned into liquid or something. Knows that the fight's for real. Takes one step towards Baki. And then falls on the ground unconscious. Did you want to dive into that?
Well, it's the Seven Samurai move. Like this is there's a scene in there's a scene in Seven Samurai with that. I don't remember it very well, but there's two guys sparring, and then they start arguing with each other, and they're like, no, let's do it for real. And there's like, I don't know, like 3 minutes of basically nothing happening, because that movie's 3 hours long. So we're gonna build up some tension, and then the same thing happens. And they have the flashback here. They're like two samurais fighting in black and white, and then one guy goes towards the other and then just falls over dead. And it's the same thing. It's like, oh, he's too fast. We can't even see it. Which is what Baki is. Baki is the super swordsman here.
I also just wanted to point out, I don't think he was too fast. Like when they showed it over, like it took him 1 second to do it. But
because the first time they show it, they're like Biscuit Oliva just falls immediately over. Yeah, and they're like, let's roll that back. And then the prison guards are all just sitting there being like, what the hell did I just see?
I'm going to start playback. At this point, the two of them haven't moved yet. Right there, Baki starts moving. But Oliver's still just standing there. He lands a hit. All the footage from here on clearly shows that Oliver had already been knocked out by that blow. This is the point when our naked eyes were first able to register any movement, just 1 second after the start of the fight.
They're watching on CCTV, and yeah, they've got the timestamps on there, and you can see Baki moving on that. It's happening in about a second. So it's like, well, okay, can't have been that fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe they're just, this whole episode is told from secondhand perspectives, right? So maybe they're just playing around with that, right?
This
they're
guy,
being like,
this guy
yeah,
Bob McCarthy sweared to God and all that is holy that he didn't blink during this. If we can't trust Officer Bob McCarthy swearing to God.
I swear to God and everything holy, I'm absolutely certain that in that moment, I didn't blink.
I'm gonna buy him some Visine for Christmas. Those dry eyes.
Oh, you're right. He didn't want to admit that he had the blink.
Yeah, I think there's the CCTV is very strange. Like it's like almost like a Han shot first kind of thing. They're being like, Baki's moving first. He's moving before Biscuit Oliva even knows that he's going to move. Then he just pummels him. He just just one shots him.
It'd be like if George Lucas in the remastered version changed it, but then cut to a scene where they look at the CCTV and it's like, actually, Greedo shot first, and that's always been the case.
This is actually I actually have the surveillance footage from the bar, and it shows the Greedo shot first. Thanks, George Lucas.
Oh, that'd be great. So that brings us to I just wanted to ask you a question. Are you familiar with Musashi Miyamoto?
I have no idea who. This is the swordsman they're talking about, right?
Yeah, to be fair, you know who he is.
The most skilled swordsman in the world, Musashi Miyamoto. You know who he is. I mean, everybody knows him.
I mean, everybody knows Musashi Miyamoto is the quote from Officer Bob McCarthy. So Musashi is... The fun thing is, I'll be a little spoilery here. Musashi is like from what I can tell, he's like a Paul Bunyan of Japan, like this mythological, like the greatest swordsman to ever exist in Japanese history. I should clarify, Musashi is a real person in history. Paul Bunyan, I'm not sure about. And the fun thing is, I don't think that Itagaki, the author, had figured it out at this point, but in a number of arcs they're actually going to clone Musashi and bring him to the future to fight the cast. So this is like a fun little a fun little foreshadowing of the idea. He's one of the only guys who can fight the characters of Baki on equal footing. Anyway, just a little narrative thing there.
So he's upcoming
in our when the new host of this show takes over from my dead body, they'll animate the Musashi arc. Not actually, they're actually. Did I tell you there's 2 seasons coming out this summer?
Terrific.
Yeah, Baki's gonna fight a caveman and then his dad, so it's gonna be some good stuff. Anywho. Just to wrap things up, there's 2 more plot points in this episode. Biscuit Oliver wakes up and tells us about Tor Noratrendez's the user illusion cutting consciousness down to size. Have you read books? Have you ever heard of this book?
I've never read this book. I've heard this this thing or this argument, but I haven't ever read this book.
Yeah,
it's nice. As a librarian, I'm glad he's citing his sources.
I think every book should have every character cite their sources. I think that would be a lot more fun.
Every TV show.
Yes. We took this joke from Family Matters, episode 7.
Yeah. I've Googled this now, and this book's from 1991, I think.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is going back to my theory of the author getting bored. I honestly think that this is a book that he just read the other day and decided to include it. And it's fun. This is the classic thing where...
it's nice there's another non-fictional interlude, another opportunity to learn things from Baki.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Ah.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah. Ugh, that's so stupid. I lost my train of thought. God damn it.
So explain that.
Anywho, yeah, there's one last thing for this episode, which is how it ends. Biscuit Oliva, he's very impressed. Oh, so I was going to explain what the hell the theory of consciousness is. It's the idea that if I stuck a sharp pin in you or something, your body will react before your conscious mind tells it to, but your mind thinks that you made the decision. I'm sure I'm sure everybody's heard that at one point or another.
That like consciousness is essentially retrospective, right? And you only become aware of decisions that you're making physiologically after they're already made.
Yeah. And that was actually the way that Torador Tendes found this out, is because the world's strongest high schooler came and chopped him in the neck, and he fell down before he could decide to. So it was
really sketchy on the research ethics, but again, how much we've learned from this, it's really, really compelling.
Yeah, it's okay. He put himself in there, you know. It's like, wasn't somebody who tried penicillin on themselves or something like that? There's actually a whole article of scientists who did this, such as things for vaccines for polio, yellow fever, laughing gas, anesthesia. None of them was what I said, though, so whatever.
Yeah, that was before we had research ethics.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay if you get to write a book out of it.
Yeah, it's okay if you do it to yourself.
Oh boy. All right, final shot of the episode. Oliver says that he doesn't care about this super fast reflexes. He doesn't need those cheap tricks because he's got something else entirely. And then the screen fades out with a little like burp burp noise.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on, Scott?
And that's because I have this.
What the hell is that?
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like every episode doesn't give you resolution. It's just like, yeah, you think this was a trump card? He's back. Like he's not down. I don't know how you get Biscuit Oliva down. Yeah. But he's not done.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it now. I'll tell you after we record those guys, because I love the whole bit. But yeah, that leads into the finale, which we'll be discussing next week. Well, before I start talking about next week, Scott, you've watched 3 episodes of Bach. You've remembered probably 2 of them. Do you think that the show is getting better over time?
I kind of think this is the best episode that I saw, but a lot of it didn't make sense because I haven't seen a lot of this a lot of the lead up. Well, I have no idea who this fat white lady is with blonde hair lying in state. Like,
it's probably one of the toughest episodes to get dropped into because like in the earlier seasons it was a bunch of weird arcs that would take 3 or 4 episodes. But this is like a whole season building up to this event, so you're missing out on like 10-11 episodes of context. But that's what builds up to these incredible moments. All right. Oh, I forgot, we have fan questions. Scott, you're gonna answer this one for me because I don't know the answer, and I'm just gonna pray that you do. Who would win in a fight, Baki or Po from Kung Fu Panda?
I don't know if I've ever seen Kung Fu Panda. So, or if I have, it's been a long, long time. However, if it was Po from Teletubbies, I'm sorry to say it would probably be Baki.
I don't want to watch that. I don't need to see Baki. Well, yeah. All right. Well, on that note, the season finale of Baki Taki is next week. I'm going to put out a bonus episode to talk about what's coming next, because there'll be a few things coming up, such as the fact that we are out of episodes and we don't have any more until July. So there's going to be a break. That's 90% of what the bonus episode would have said. So we'll see what happens. But the next one should be a lot of fun. I have a fun format. If anybody likes Frasier, it's sort of like that. But anyway, that's all the Baki we've got to talkie. And I'll see y'all next week. Usually our guests say bye.
Bye.
Okay, he waved.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Okay. Interesting, right.
Friday.